Hello everybody and welcome to my studio. My name is Lonna. I am an acrylic artist. If you are new to my YouTube channel, I teach you how to paint with acrylics. Many different forms, many different styles, lots and lots of fun. I love to mix it up. I don't want to do the same thing over and over, so I really try to bring you lots of different things with different techniques that you can learn. So are you ready to see what we're going to paint today? I'm excited to show you guys. We're going to paint this one, which I have titled Holiday Cheer. I love this painting, mostly because I did the bouquet effect behind my candle and tree there. And any of you that have watched my videos or painted along with me for a while know how I love to do that bouquet effect. I think it just really makes a painting pop, and this was so much fun to do. How gorgeous is that? This is a 9x12 canvas, and it's going to be just tons of fun, lots to learn. It is going to be a great project for you guys to do. I'll be using DecoArt Americana acrylic paints. So we're going to grab our supplies, but first I want to say, if you are new to my YouTube channel, I hope that you will hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you know whenever I post a video or go live. And please give me a thumbs up, comment, and share. It all helps me right here on YouTube, and I am so appreciative of every one of you. So if you're ready, let's grab our supplies and get painting. Alright everybody, we're going to get started on this project. So I've already base coated my canvas with black paint. You could also use a really dark blue, like a deep midnight blue, maybe mix a tiny little black in it to just make it a little bit more opaque, and do your background with a really deep blue color. That would be really good. I just used my 2-inch damp foam roller. Then I laid my line drawing on here, put my white graphite paper underneath, used the stylus, and transferred on the lines. Now these lines down here we're going to paint over. They're just kind of a guide when we come back to put our other lines back on. We really don't need them now, but some of these will stick past and we can kind of line up with those. It really doesn't matter. I put them on there and then realized, you know, you probably don't need those on there yet. So those can wait and be transferred on later if you like. So we're going to start by working on the background. Now my background is a bouquet effect in my background. I'm going to try and keep it similar to this, but I know it won't be exact because, you know, you just paint different on different days, and I could be placing colors in different places, but we'll get the general effect of this bouquet effect in the background. So you're going to need a stencil of some kind. You can use a stencil that has just this specific size of circles, which is 3/4 inch, or you can use one that has many sizes, and this row right here is 3/4 inch. These two I do sell on my website. Or you could use something like this. These are all too big, but I do have one that has smaller circles. Let's see if I can grab that out for you real quick. And I just got these at Michael's, so it would be more like this one. These are templates for graphic artists. So it's got a 3/4 inch circle right here. So you could use that. You just want to tape off around so you don't get into those other circles, but very doable with that as well. So those are your options for the background. So let me grab mine. We're going to be using a stencil brush, maybe a couple of stencil brushes if you only have one. You want to have some hand sanitizer ready so that you can clean that brush out for later when we do the stenciling on here. You can have a clean stencil brush. You'll want to clean it with hand sanitizer if you only have one, because that will remove the paint out of there. Don't use water because it takes so long to dry, but the hand sanitizer will evaporate fairly quickly and you can have a pretty dry brush to move on to do other stenciling with. Okay, so the colors we're going to be using our antique white. Let me make sure I get my right colors out here. We're going to be using glazing medium for our background. Now this makes some of the circles more transparent, but you can also just keep removing the paint out of your brush to get very, very light colors. But I like the look that the glazing medium gives me for some of the more transparent ones. So we're going to be using antique white and some white paint. Those are the only two colors we need to have out right now. Let me shake my paint up a little bit here. Try and get my palette in the camera here. So white and antique white. Oh, my antique white's a little thin there, so I shook it up and I'm gonna put some other out that's maybe a little bit thicker. You won't need near that much paint, you just need a little bit of paint. Just a little bit, but I wanna make sure you can see it on my palette. All right, my glazing medium. Any brand of glazing medium will do as long as it is a fluid glazing medium. Fluid by a more liquid glazing medium. You don't want anything that's thick. I have even in the past used glazing medium that you can use on your walls, because glazing medium is pretty much it's all the same. What it does is makes transparent layers with your paint. It can take a little bit longer to dry. That's why I use very little when I'm doing my bouquet background, but it makes very beautiful transparent colors. So I'm going to take my brush, and I apologize for the noise in the background. I have an old laptop that I'm trying to clear all the files out of, and it makes a terribly loud noise. It takes forever. Oh my gosh, it's going to be taking forever on it. So I'm loading up with a little bit of glazing. You saw that I pulled some out of the puddle, and I'm just working it into my brush here. Okay, I'm going to start out, I think, with a little bit of white, just a small amount of paint, working it into my brush with that glazing medium. I mean, I have just a tiny bit of paint on here, and we're not really going to be too concerned about our line drawing over here. We are going to put some around our ornaments that are going to be going up and underneath our branches, around our candle, and all that stuff. So, you know, you just want to start putting them wherever you want. I'm going to tap a little bit more. That's got quite a bit of fluidity to it. So if you feel like your brush is really holding on to some moisture of that glazing medium, then you might want to start out by just tapping your circles in here. And this is the transparent white, because I put glazing medium in my brush first. And all of our circles are going to be the same size. So I'm going to go right up here next to this ornament, and I'll probably put some other colors in here. If you get it on your ornament, no problem. We're going to be painting that in. So just, you know, just work your way around and put some transparent white ones wherever. We're going to put so many of these circles on here that we're eventually, I mean, everything will push and fade, and, you know, just, it'll all turn out beautiful. I love doing this effect. I think it is one of my favorite effects for backgrounds. I think it is just absolutely gorgeous. And you see how far I can go, but you're also seeing that they're getting lighter and lighter. So I can do a little bit more of that glazing medium with that little bit of white. I mean, tiny bit of white. And we'll do a few more of this one. Going all over, putting them here, there, and everywhere. Maybe just a tiny bit more white in that glazing medium. I'll remove some of that. We still got the glazing medium, so it's going to help make it transparent. Make some go off of your edges. You know, don't keep them all confined just in here. So I'm just just going to keep moving all around. And this is just that white and the glazing medium, okay? I'll put one right here. That will be behind the candle there. Okay, I'm going to start doing some now with the antique white and glazing medium next. So I'm not going to clean my brush out. There's no need to do that. A little bit of glazing medium, a little bit of antique white here. Tap, tap, tap on my paper towel. And then we'll start putting some of this color in. I need a little bit more of that antique white in there. Tap, tap, tap. This will still be a transparent gold. We'll be adding more color and darkening up, so this is just a first layer here. You definitely want to overlap things. A little bit more gold in there because it's already fading down in there a little bit. And some of these yellow ones, gold ones, will come in and wash some color over later. We will get darker yellow ones and darker white ones, so these are the ones that are pushed the farthest into the background. Okay, remember these are the ones that go farthest into the background, so they're going to be the lightest. And a lot of these that we're putting, you know, around our ornaments and stuff, especially up in here, we're probably not going to see those, so, but you know, a little bit of it might peek through, and so that gives your painting a lot more interest, a lot more depth, a lot more realism, as opposed to stopping right at that particular surface. I think I'm going to add a little bit more. Let me put one more in here. A little bit more of the antique white into my brush now, and I'm not going to add any more glazing medium, because now I want to start adding some darker colors coming out. Okay, I'm going to start by tapping because I know I have a lot of paint on my brush here. Okay. These are very muted colors for our background. Right now, I'm going to lock my canvas down because I don't want it to be moving. Since I'm tapping, it will tend to bounce and my easel will want to move. So, a little bit more of that antique gold. Tap, tap, tap. You know, if I'm at the line there, I kind of want to go up on the ornament a little bit. So when I come back and paint the ornament, it's going to be like on top of that circle that I just painted. We're just doing antique white here. That one, see, that one got a little bit Had too much paint on my brush, so that one should have been more. I'll have to come back and put one there to cover up where I just put my finger. Okay. Load my brush when I feel like I'm kind of running out of paint. I want to tap at least the first one because I'm not sure how much paint I have on my brush. After that I can probably just start doing the swirling thing. Okay, we're looking pretty good here. Okay, we're going to come in and add some brighter white ones. So I'm going to remove the yellow out of my brush. Now after I did those transparent yellow ones, I could have went straight into my white and just used white. So these will be maybe have a little bit of yellow tint, but that's okay. We still have some of our brightest white ones to put on, and I'll see how these look. I might want to add a little glazing medium to them. Okay, that looks pretty bright white, so that looks pretty good. Shouldn't have to change that out too much. Not really sure why my little thing isn't holding my easel, but let me shove it in there really good. I think it's held good now. I'll let that one dry just a second before I come back with another bright one there. So just move around your background here. There's no right or wrong to this at all. There's no right or wrong. You do want to try and stay out of your other circles, because I'm making a lot of shadow circles on here. Okay, let's get back over here. Tap this one because I feel like I got a lot of paint in my brush, and I don't want to have build up on my edges. Okay, just keep overlapping. You just start building one layer on top of another. Super cool. We're going to wash some color over some of these. So I think I'm going to touch that up with some black paint because I don't want to come down any farther on there. I do need to bring one down here though. And I think I might add a little bit of glazing medium to my brush here in just a second and add some more transparent ones. I'm just kind of letting my eye flow over it to see how it's looking. I'm going to put a little glazing medium in my brush. Kind of tap that out. I want a lighter white one right in there. You can do as little as much as you want. Now, don't forget that, because you know, whatever you want to do in your background, I think it looks best with a little more, but I'm just letting my eye flow. We're going to have a glow around the candle here, so we don't have to have a bunch of circles coming up on that. Okay, I think that's looking pretty good. Just seeing if I want to add any more on here. Definitely going to touch up a little black there. Might put one here. We probably won't see that at all, but it's a fun one. I'm trying to look and see if I want to add any more here. Maybe a little bit brighter white one. So I picked up more white paint. Okay. Tap that a little closer to that line there. Let it kind of come over it just a bit. When I paint that, it will blend in more. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I like that. So we just used the white and the antique white and the glazing medium, and got lighter ones and a little bit darker ones. You know, if you want to make your antique white ones more dark, you can do that. You know, just add some straight antique white. If you're thinking, I think those antique white ones could be darker, and you can add a second layer onto some of them, or just add some new ones. So I think a few of them could be a little darker, just here and there. The white ones should really be the ones that are on top. So some of these we're going to wash some color over, some bright yellow over, so they don't have to be too dark. But if you want to pop a few of those yellow ones out just a little bit more, then you can do that. Okay, I think that's good for me. So I'm going to take my hand sanitizer and grab that. I have plenty of brushes, but I'm going to show you how I want you to clean it. So I'm just going to put a little bit on my palette here. First, I'm going to scrub as much paint out of my brush as possible. It makes it much easier to clean. And then I'm going to work this hand sanitizer into my brush, and then wipe out on a dry paper towel. I'm going to do that one more time. Doesn't take very much hand sanitizer, so just work it into the brush. Remove it on there, and I'm going to take my paper towel and squeeze out the excess hand sanitizer out of my brush. And a dry paper towel. We're using a dry paper towel for this. And just clean it out. And make sure you have no paint, no glazing medium, no hand sanitizer in there. Shouldn't take very long once you scrub all that paint out of your brush. Set it aside because we're going to use it later, and it should be completely dry when we get ready to use it. Okay, we're going to wash over just a few of these. I did not do very many, but as you can see, some of these, like that one and that one, probably that one and that one, definitely this one, and a couple over here, I washed over with some transparent sapphire is the color I'm using. Now, you can add your glazing medium to this to get a transparent color, but I'm just going to thin it with water because it does the exact same thing and it will dry very quickly. We're just mixing a tiny bit of paint in with our water. I'm going to tap my paper towel, and then I'm just going to pick a few that I want to be more on the blue side and put a little wash of this sapphire in here. Let's see. I need another one over here to be kind of a blue color. I think I might go up and do this one. I think this one in here needs to be blue. Okay, let's go up here and make some blue ones. I probably won't be doing them in the same place that I did my other ones, but I'll get kind of in the general area so that, you know, will be helpful. Adding just a little bit more of the blue into that water. Get a little bit brighter blue in there. Let's see. I think I'll do this one. Now we don't want to do too many. That's the key there. And maybe, I feel like one somewhere around the candle needs to be a little more blue. I'm going to be putting a bright glow around that. So this one that I did up here I think could be a little bit darker. That's pretty bright. Maybe not quite that bright. Let me tap that back with my finger. The good thing about having a dark background, especially like black, and I've said this before, is that you can very easily clean up your background. Okay, I think that looks pretty good for some blue ones. Now let's do a few yellow. So this is where you can make some of those my brush a little better. I felt like I still have blue in it. My yellow was getting a little bit of a green tint to it. Alright, so let's do a little bit of yellow. Like I said, you can use glazing medium here if you want to. I'm just going to pick a few to brighten, give a little bit brighter yellow too. And then once you get these kind of washed over colors, you can come back in and redo your, you know, bright white ones if you want to. So I think this will have one up here. Let's see. Maybe this one here. I kind of want one in here that's more bright yellow. Just a wash. Okay. Just looking around to see if I want to bring that yellow anywhere else. I feel like I could use maybe just a kiss of it in a couple more places. Let's go right here. one over here. Make this one a little bit brighter. Okay. Now again, you can go over those and brighten them, you know, more if you want. I would suggest waiting till the very end to see, you know, what you need to do. I'm not going to clean up my black until the very end because I'm sure I'm going to get stuff on my black here and there. So I think that's it for that, for until we get to the end to put the really bright sparkle areas on here. And at that point, we'll have everything painted in and we can look and see if we want to adjust any colors in our bouquet, add more white, or do anything like that to it. So for now, I'm calling the bouquet effect in the background done. Okay, we're getting ready to paint our candle in. So I want to tape it off with some Scotch tape. And this is going to give us a square, kind of square candle, but I will be curving the corners in when I paint. That doesn't look straight, so that still doesn't look straight. My line should be straight because I drew it on with a T-square. So I'm not sure if that line looks straight. That looks a little straighter. And then let me try the top again here. Okay, so I've got it taped off. Hopefully all my edges are straight. I'm just using Scotch tape here. I'm going to be using a makeup sponge. Okay, so the color I'm going to mix here is Tomato Red, Snow White, and Lamp Black. So we have 2 Tomato Red, 1 Snow White, and a touch of Lamp Black. That might be a little bit more Lamp Black than I actually need. So I might scoot some of that over out of the way. And I'm going to mix all this together. This is going to be our undercoating. That black almost turns it purple, so you have to be careful there. Not get too much black. So really just a tiny touch. We need the black to help us with the black background there though. So mix that together really well. See, I don't have a whole lot of paint right here, just a little bit. I'm going to be applying it with a makeup sponge, so you know, it goes on a little bit thinner coats. Okay, so I'm going to load my makeup sponge with this paint and see how it looks on here. I'm going to try and curve it around that corner right there, but if I can't, I can adjust that later. I'm going to go right down into where all those leaves are. Like I said, we really didn't need to have those leaves on there. You see how little bit of paint we're using here? This is the undercoating of this. So, because our candle's going to be red, but I wanted pink tones underneath. Okay. So we have to let that dry. So while it is drying, we can base coat in our ornaments. Okay. So with our ornaments, I have 2 sizes of circles. Again, you can use this particular circle template thing. Let's see what size circles I have here. That size, which is a 2 1/2, and then I have a 2 1/4. So these 2 are the bigger ones, and that's the smaller one. Okay, we're going to be painting them in with a gray. Now you could use a gray sky if you want, but I am going to just mix a black and white together to make a light gray. bit of black to that. I probably need a little bit bigger puddle than this, so let me add more white, because I got 3 ornaments that I want to paint gray. Yes, one of them will be red, but it needs to be undercoated with the gray because the red will not cover over the black. That's why we did this one like this. Okay, so that's probably plenty right there to paint all 3 of our ornaments in right there. And it's just a light gray, light to medium gray. I could actually add a little more white to that, get it even a little lighter. We'll see how it goes on. I might want to lighten the second coat with a little more white. Okay, so again, I'm going to take a makeup sponge. And if you want to tape off, I do, because that is very close to where I'm going to be painting, right here. So I'm going to put a piece of tape right there. I think I'll be okay over here. If I get some over here, not a big deal, because you know, it will be covered up with our greenery. So let's start with this smaller ornament and use our makeup sponge to just lightly tap. Makeup sponges are not very absorbent, so you don't want to get a whole lot of paint. You want to pull a little bit out, tap it onto the sponge, kind of spread it around on the end of the sponge. Not a lot. This is very light layers here, but it covers very well. Okay, so there is our first layer on that. We need that to dry, so I'm going to move to my other 2 and get them painted in. Okay, I need this taped down and tape it here. I want to hold it in place. If you need to put more tape on there than what I have, then be sure and do it. I'm going to start in the middle. By tapping in the middle, that's going to get most of the paint off of the sponge, so when I come out here to the edges, I'll have a nice thin layer, and I won't have buildup on my edges or go underneath my sponge. Now I'm doing straight up and down tapping. I'm not pushing it or scrubbing it or swirling it. Just straight up and down, gentle tapping. That's all you need. That's all you need. No need to get rough and wild and crazy. Okay, there's that one, and I'll go down and do this one. I have to move this piece of tape here. Maybe all of my nails have broke off, so I have no nails to grip anything. Cut a little bit more of that off. Okay, that's good. And then we'll put our stencil here in this circle. And we will tap that in with our sponge as well. A little bit of paint goes a long ways. Start in the middle, tap, 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 disperse, 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 and then out to the edges so that you don't have any buildup. I'm going to need a little bit more. Tap, tap, tap in the middle. Even when I go and reload, I tap in the middle. I want to get that excess paint that's on here off. I don't want it building up on my edges. I want this to be a flat painting, not have all these ridges. Okay, so we'll be coming back and putting a second layer on that. Okay, so that's our first layers. On our second layer on our candle, I think we'll go ahead and do a second layer of this red mix. So I'm just going to load my sponge up because we want this to be a red candle, but it's got those pink undertones, so let's just put a quick second layer on here. We'll still need to keep our tape on here, so don't go removing your tape. Just a quick second layer, maybe to finish out any areas where you can still see a little bit of that black. Okay, so I have to get these dry, and I'm going to do a quick second coat on these. Okay, I took my tape off here. I've got my second coats on everything because I want to come in and make sure that my corners are rounded right there. You know, maybe I missed getting some paint right there. So I just want to make sure I've got my shape. Follow my line that I put on here. I just took my sponge up close to it. And now I'll just finish that off. Make sure we've got a nice shape. Okay, and then we'll take a small flat brush of some kind and paint our toppers in with this same gray. We only have 2 toppers that we can see. Okay, you can make them taller than that if you want. Just fill those in, and when they're dry, add a second coat onto those toppers as well. Alright, got all my undercoats on. I am going to take my sponges and use my scissors and cut the end of the sponge off. Okay, and we're going to use this to paint this one in. And then I'm going to cut the end of this one off. And then we'll use this one to paint in our base coat, or our main coat. These are, for this one and this one, it's undercoated. Now we're going to base coat them, okay? So we need tomato red for our candle, and we're going to use Tuscan red for our ornament. So they'll be slightly different in color. And I haven't decided if I'm going to add a little bit of white to that tomato red or not. I'm going to see how it goes on. We will be washing over this at the end with some Tuscan red, but I want to try and keep the glow a little bit. So let's see how this is going to look. So this one is going to be tomato red. Let's get something in the paint. Okay, tap it on my sponge. I don't think I can get that in the camera shot. Let me see. Okay, pulling some out, tapping it on the sponge, and then we're going to paint in our candle. I put fresh tape on here so that I could make sure I get right up to my edges. Go kind of up to that corner there. I'll bring my brush in and touch that up. I'll probably touch it up while the paint is on here because we're going to stencil on top of this. I just want you to make sure you're doing light layers here, not building up on the tape edge, because when we remove the tape, I don't want there to be a ridge where your candle is, so, or where your ornaments are. Okay, there's a good first coat on that. Let's move over to our ornament. Let me grab my stencil back here. This one's red, these two are gray. So I'm going to put this back on here, tape it down. And we'll put some Tuscan red on this. It's a much brighter red. I wanted my ornament and my candle to both be red, but I didn't want them to be the exact color of red. So you should see a difference. And I think I might add a little bit of white to my tomato red, which will make it a little pink. Lightly tapping that edge, so I'm going to make sure I cover up all my gray but not make any ridges in my ornament. If I, didn't get my stencil lined up really good, I can come back and touch up with a paintbrush, but I'd really rather not have to do that. Okay, so that was our Tuscan red. This is not quite dry, so I've got to get it dry, and then I think I need to maybe lighten that a little bit with some white. Okay, this is dry, so let me add a little bit of white in here. I don't want it to be pink, but I do need it to be lighter, and that looks pretty good. That was, get a little more tomato red out. A little bit of white in my sponge here. I like this color in here really well. White and tomato red. On top of that tomato red, that looks really good. Maybe just a touch more red in my sponge here. So I'm not really sure how to give a ratio for this. Two tomato red and a touch of white, possibly. We'll go with that, and you can adjust it to make it a color that you really like. Okay, so I'm liking that little bit lighter red in there. So that's tomato red and a little bit of white. We're going to be putting some stenciling on here. As soon as that dries, I do want to make sure my edges are good. More of that pinky color. Okay, and then do a quick second coat on this ornament up here. That Tuscan red. It's really bright red. Okay, I'm going to lift it to see. So see, I didn't quite get all the way to the edge over there. I'm going to lift my stencil and just slightly move it so I can catch that gray that I missed there. Which I could do also with a paintbrush, but I can just scoot the stencil and adjust it. Still have some that I didn't quite get, and I'm going to take my brush, my paintbrush, and clean that edge up. I got a little bit outside of my lines here. Okay, we're going to be having some greenery come over this, so just a little bit. We won't be having greenery at the bottom, so we want to make sure our bottom is good. And don't lose your shape. That's the big thing. So, if you need to just keep moving your stencil a little bit, then that's probably the best thing. Okay, so there's our 2 coats on our red. We got our 2 coats on our candle, and we're going to stencil on our candle before we remove the tape here. Okay, we're going to stencil some snowflakes on our candle. And I'm going to put out some alizarin crimson. And I've got a little bit of tomato red. So I'm going to mix some tomato red. Maybe I should get some fresh because that's not wanting to scrape up very good. I do not need near that much paint. So I'm going to mix 1 tomato red, 1 alizarin crimson, and a little touch of black. And that might be just a touch too much black. We'll see. Might add 2 touches of black, so let me add more alizarin and tomato in there. I just want it to be a slightly darker red. If we need to add more black in there, we can. Okay, so I'm just going to use this makeup sponge. It's got the Tuscan red on it, and that's just fine. And I've got a snowflake stencil here. And I'm going to put my snowflake stencil on. I'm just gonna try and make it like my original one. So I know that this one is in the middle. Let me get a piece of tape to tape this down. Keep it from moving. So I'm gonna load that on and tap this one on. You can also use your stencil brush for this. Actually, I wanted you to save back your stencil brush so you could do it with the stencil brush. So let's just add the stencil brush and put these on with the stencil brush. So tap it on, tap it off. Down here at the bottom, I put, which one did I put? I'm having a hard time telling. Well, this one is over here somewhere. I'm not sure I'm going to get them in the same spots, but you know, maybe I'll get them close. Okay, so that one was there. I think I had one of these up here. Here. I'm just trying to make it like my original one, but you can certainly put your snowflakes wherever you want to put them. It is, after all, your painting. A little bit more of our mix in the brush. Load it in, tap it off. Dry spot on your paper towel. Don't tap it on a wet spot because you won't be happy. Okay, I'm thinking this one was over here, but you know, I'm not 100% sure. So I'm just going to put this one over here. And then I had a little one in here. Not sure if it was that one or not, but we'll do it with that one. And this one over here. Okay. Trying to see what one's at the bottom down here. I think it's this one down here. Now we have leaves coming in down here, so we want our snowflakes to stay up a little bit. I'll put a little bit of this one down here. We probably won't see any of that one, considering where we're going to be putting our stuff. Okay, that looks pretty good to me. I'm happy with the placement of those. We are actually done with our stencil brush now, so at this point you can clean your stencil brush and set it aside. And we are going to remove the tape because we no longer need it. We've done all of our paint base coating and all of our stenciling. So now we'll be doing finishing work on this. And I think that's looking pretty good. Now, you could make this a little bit darker color in here. You know, add more black into it if you want to. So that's totally optional for you. Okay, let's start shading on our candle. Okay, well, we're gonna shade along this edge and kind of walk it over and round it a little bit around here. Now, when we put our greenery on, which we could go ahead and put our greenery on right now, that way we could shade around the whole thing, you know, shade around the greenery. We'll have to come back and shade around it because I don't want to put it on right yet. So we're going to take our red and a little bit of black, mostly red, and blend that into our brush. And this is the side we're going to shade. So we're going to shade on this side, down this edge. And I'm going to bring some of that over. I'm just going to take it all the way down to the bottom, even though that's going to be covered up. I'm going to grab a mop brush. So you might want to have a mop brush handy. Kind of fix that a little bit. Need to get a new paper towel. Okay. I need more moisture in my brush here, and I'm going to mix a little more. Okay, that's way too much black, so wipe my brush off and load the red. I'm going to bring some along the bottom here. I know this is going to be covered up, but you know, we can start preparing for our way too much black in there. Not too much up there, because it's just going to be mostly on this side. Okay, that's not quite dry. Okay, so we just kind of brought it down and kind of a swooping like this, and we can bring just a little bit of it up this edge. So it's like one big, like, semicircle type of thing. Okay, we have to dry that so that we can repeat it. So I'm going to quickly dry it. Okay, I want to make sure it's cool to the touch, because if it's not cool to the touch, it's going to heat set the paint immediately. It's going to dry the paint in your brush so that you can't move it or anything like that. So if you use a heat tool to dry, make sure you allow it to be cool before you apply more paint. Okay, a little bit up this side. We don't know where our leaves are going to be, so I'm only going to take it about that far into our candle. I think that looks pretty good. Okay, so we want that to dry. We're going to make a wash to put over this before we add our highlights on here. So while that is drying, we can go ahead and paint our wick in. As soon as I find me a good round brush. I'm just going to use a detail liner of some kind. Trying to find the length of one that I would like to use. Okay. I think I'll just use this short 10-0 liner. I think it's a 10-0. Yep. but it's short. Normally I use one that has really long bristles, but this one just has really short bristles. And we're going to paint it in with black, I believe. Oh, let's see. I'm looking at my instructions to make sure. Yeah, well, we're not going to see much of this black, but especially down here where it comes in, but we're going to paint it in with black. Try to make it thin. That is like super thick, but it's going to blend. It's going to blend away into the background. So I'm just going to pull a thinner line up into the flame a little bit. Okay. I want to create a wash of alizarin crimson, and I have written tomato red on my I think that's what that was alizarin crimson, because tomato red was our base under color. So I have a 2-to-1 mix, so it's like 1, 2, 1. Okay. Then I just want to add some water to that. Maybe not quite that much. So 1, 2, 1. And we'll make a wash. Tap my paper towel after I load my brush. And that's too pinky color. I can tell you right now. So I think I come back later and do just a wash of Tuscan on here. This is going to help keep our candle more bright, as opposed to a really dark red that the ornament's going to be. I want it to have like a little glow down in it, so I didn't get quite all the way across my candle, so I wanted to dry that real quick so I could work this color, this wash, into my candle. I want to stay off of my background and my bouquet if at all possible. Okay, so that's got us a good start there with that mix. So let me work on my wick up here, my flame, while that is drying. Flame is outlined with snow white, is what I say in my instructions. Then bright yellow. And a tiny bit of Tuscan red. I think first I want to do the glow part with the yellow, so I can't really do that till I highlight on my so let's do the shading and highlighting here on our candle. Okay, we're just going to use Snow White for our highlight, looks like. And I've got a little bit of water in my brush, so this first layer is really going to become transparent. So we're going to go up this edge a little bit and along this corner. Okay, not outside the corner, just on the candle, along the top here, all the way under the wick that we can't see. I think I'm gonna have to make my wick a light gray. Okay, want that to kind of fade away. Needs to fade away down there as well. A little bit more narrow there. Mop brush. definitely want to see it coming around that corner. Okay, this is our highlight edge, so I'm going to clean up a little bit if I can right here. If I can't with a damp brush, then I will clean up with black at the end, but we're going to be having some glow and a big sparkle thing there, so I think we'll be okay. Okay, so that's my first little highlight on there. I want to work on the wick now while that dries, because we need to wash another color over before we put our final highlight on there. So I'm going to take my white here and I'm going to outline my flame. And your flame can be whatever shape you want it to be. I want it to have a little bit of wiggle and jiggle and stuff in it. And then I'm just going to put a little bit of white inside here. I'm just going to wipe my brush off and go into my yellow now. Okay, I zoomed in so you can see it a little bit better. I want my yellow to be down here, and I might have to mix a little bit of white with that and make it opaque. A little tiny bit of red. You know, you can make your flame any way that you want. I'm just going to tap this in here and there. And then wipe my brush off and go back to my white. And it's going to be a little whiter at the top. Whiter, not whiter. And around the edges here. Streak some of that in there. We're going to have to come back and do another layer on this. But before we do, we have to put our glow on there. Old brush that I don't care, and I'm going to use it dry. You know, I don't care how beat up I do the bristles. And I'm going to mix a tiny bit of white with some of my yellow. Okay? Now we're dry brushing, so that means using a dry brush, or we're dry rubbing, I guess, and taking some of the paint off onto a dry paper towel, and we're going to start around our candle, or our flame here, and start adding some glow. That's why we're going to have to paint our wick in again. Kind of needed to know where our wick is, because if we did this without painting our wick in, we would totally lose that wick. Okay? I'll load a little bit more in my brush and maybe mix a little more white with it. Try and keep it closer to the flame this time. We're going to wash some yellow, some of that bright yellow over this, so it's really going to make that area pop. So we're just creating this yellow area here. We're going to bring it onto the candle a little bit right down here. We will definitely be brightening that up. Okay, so that's our first go at doing that glow around the candle. Okay, so I'm moving all around so that I can give different elements time to dry. So for our candle now, we want to take some Tuscan red and thin that with some water. And this is the color we used up here on our ornament. And we just want to add a little bit of this color on here in a wash. Stay out of your highlight. And this is a pretty sheer little wash. We could have done this before our highlight, but I wanted that white to be on top of that more muted color. And that's going to really brighten up the candle there. Okay, so we just got to finish out the second highlight on there, but while that is drying, I want to make sure my area around my wick, my flame, is dry, because we're going to take our bright yellow and wash that around. So I'm just going to corner load and get some clean water on my brush. And we're going to start brightening up this area. This is kind of a washy kind of float around this. A little bit brighter on the candle here. And a little bit brighter next to the wick. Or the flame, not the wick. Okay. So we just kind of brought that around and out. It's a very easy way to make a glow on a candle. Okay, so that is drying. Let's finish up our second highlight on our candle. And we're mostly just going to do this on the corner here. We want to make sure this corner is pretty bright. Okay, just a little bit on that corner. You know, you can always take it down if you feel like it's too bright over there. I mean, there are some areas in here I feel like are a little much, but I need to wash some of that red over that. Just tone that down a little bit. I shouldn't do it while it's wet, because that's going to turn that side pink. And we don't want it pink. We want it to stay nice red. A nice red glowy color. Okay. So let's redo our wick. Let's make sure that that is dry. And then once we get done with this part, we do need to add a little reflective light over here on this side. Very mute. Oh, got yellow in my brush. Let me get that out. Don't want yellow, just white. And just a very small amount of paint. Just a little reflective light over there. Really kind of make it not too much. I can put a little bit down here as well. Okay, a couple little kisses. Don't want them great big, and I don't want them really bright. Especially don't want this one bright. Okay, let's work on our little flame here. Wipe my brush off. I'm going to get a little yellow. Wipe my brush off, get a little bit of red. Doesn't matter. I don't remember which red I used a while ago. Just a little bit. Wipe that off. Get more white. I need to put my wick back in here. So let me do that real quick. I'm going to make it a gray color so I can see it. I'll rinse that off, and then a little bit, and do very good rinsing that. A little bit of white. Wipe it off. Some yellow. And A little bit of red, whatever red you have on your palette will be just fine. There's no right or wrong to the red. Just put a little bit in there. And then just play with it till you're happy with it, okay? All right, for me, I'm happy with that. You know, you can keep adding more yellow around for flame and all that stuff if you feel like you want it to be brighter. I do want to put a little bit of brightness on the top of the candle with just a little sparkle, I think. I can't tell if I did this intentionally on my candle or not, but I'll just go with it. Put a little bright right there. All right, so now what I want to do is get my line drawing down here transferred on. We're going to do that next to the last thing, but we can get it on there. We're going to go finish out the ornaments because they're going to be very fast. These two will be done the same way, except I'll add a little bit of extra color into that one, and this one will be kind of like we did that. So it's going to be pretty easy. All right, let's start on our ornaments. Now our two gray ornaments are going to be done exactly the same. So what we're going to do is we're going to shade on them with a wash of lamp black. Now wash means that your brush will have water in it. You'll corner load into your paint. And you see I've got a lot of water. That's a super wet. Maybe just a touch too much black, so I'm going to wipe my paint off. And if you need, you can get a little bit more water. So the color goes all the way across my brush at this point. So I'm going to take the heel of my brush and wipe it on a damp place on my paper towel. We're going to start over here on this edge because this is our shadow edge. And we're going to shade this side of the ornament and the bottom, kind of creating that like backwards C look. I'm going to get my mop brush and just kind of soften this a little bit. I'm going to clean my mop brush off on a clean place and then dry it. I want to do along this edge of my topper. Just kind of put some on that edge and then take the water edge and scoot that over just a little bit. That was a little bit darker right there. I'm going to come up here to this one and do the same thing. This is a smaller ornament, but we're going to do it the same way. We're going to kind of keep it darker up there at the top because it kind of goes over the ornament, but on this one we'll probably wash maybe a little bit of color into it. I did on my original, so I'm going to, you know, make that an optional step. So I just want to start out by putting a little of this wash of black on there. Okay, and they're both done the exact same way. I'm going to dry this one. repeat that. Spritz some water on my palette here. Okay, a little bit darker on this outer edge out here. Not so dark that it fades away into the background. Okay, go up here and do this one. Remember, this is just a wash of color, so okay, so on this one here, I'm going to take a little bit of alizarin crimson and mix it with some black on my brush. I've still got some of that black in my brush. So add just a teeny tiny bit more. Just darken up that red, kind of like we did down here. This makes kind of a dirty red. And I'm going to put a little bit of this color up here on this particular ornament. Tap some in there. I think it needs a little bit more red in it. So let me grab a little bit more red. And we'll put that in there. Okay, I've got a really hard line right there. So I'm going to clean my brush and I'm going to dampen that area. And then take my mop brush and kind of work that line so that it softens up. Okay, so we got a little bit of red in that one. We can add a little bit of red in this one if you want, but I think what I'm going to do is add a little bit of my blue and black mixed together on both of these. Now this is an optional step. Kind of like we did that red there. Give it a little blue tint maybe right up here. Just a touch more of that blue in there. And I think I might put a little bit in this one here. I almost feel like my shaded side got a little dark. I'm going to mix my gray mix, which is black and white, and touch up a little bit in this ornament. I got my dark color over a little bit farther than what I want it to be. So this is just my base color mix. Wipe it off. That way I can kind of finish scrubbing that in there. This one I don't feel like I got too dark, but I've got a little tiny bit left on my brush, so I'll just scrub it in here and blend it out. Oh, that's going to give us a little bit better looking ornament. Okay. So we just need to highlight on our ornaments now. We're going to highlight with white. Okay, so we're going to start down here. And work our way up this edge. Keep your shape. Put some on this edge of the topper. Just keep your nice shape. It's important to keep the nice shape. I want to bring this in a little bit here. Okay, let me go up to the other one. I'm not sure that area showed up super well, but get some water on my brush. I'm just going to keep this down here mostly. Okay, we're going to repeat that, but before we do, we're going to make a bullseye float. Now, a bullseye float is where it's loaded just on the corner, and we're going to keep that corner always where the paint is, and you can just kind of tap it in. Not a lot of water on my brush, a little bit though, and just tap in that highlight. We'll definitely be brightening that, and then we're going to put one down here. And that needs to be repeated. Okay, let's make a little reflective highlight. I'm actually going to use my little detail liner for this. Over here on this edge. Make sure we keep it shaped. And then on this one, we'll go right here. Alright, we have to do that bullseye float again. A little bit more paint on my brush here. Right here. Highlight on this edge a little bit, and down here. Okay, let's go up here on this one and brighten the bullseye float. Okay, we'll make it just a touch brighter here. I still need a little bit brighter here. I want to tap in the center there. Make the very center of that kind of bright. Okay, it looks like on my original one I washed a little bit of yellow or gold into that highlight as reflection from that candle. So I'll get my yellow and I'm going to mix white with it to really tone that down. And put a little bit of glow from that candle on here. Can't really see that, so I might darken that up a little bit. Just the straight yellow. So a little reflection on there. Put a little bit on this edge too, but I'm not sure we're going to see that once we get our greenery on there, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. Okay, let's make our wire for our toppers, which is just that gray mix of black and white. And we don't really have to do too much to these because our greenery is going to cover most of them up. But we just need placement so we can make sure that we put our greenery through them. Okay, just that little wire going in there. Okay. That looks pretty good for the gray ornaments. They are pretty much done. So we're going to move over to the red ornaments. Okay, the red one is a mix of alizarin crimson and black. 2 alizarin crimson to 1 black. Get our shading color. This may not be dark enough for our first. It'll be good for our first, but we'll definitely have to go darker by adding a little bit more black into this. We're going to do it the same way we did the gray one. Mix a little bit more here. My ceiling fan is on. It's drying my paint before I can get it spread. Alright, so this one is going to be more down here and come into the ornament more. Okay, we'll clean up this edge. Kind of got outline here. You have to be careful with red. Red sometimes can be hard to clean up, but yeah, we'll be having some greenery go in here yet. I just don't know if it's going to go that far down onto that ornament. So let's get that dry. It's dry before you start painting. Those bristles off of there. Not sure what that is. Okay, it's our alizarin crimson and black mixed together. Okay, that's way too much black. If you're not really seeing yours, then you need more black in your mix. Okay, I think I'm going to mop that to kind of smooth it out a little bit, just very lightly, because I got a lot of paint on there and I don't want to remove it. I just want it to have a smooth transition. And let's see, I don't know if I shaded up here because I have a limb that comes over right there. So I might go ahead and add a little bit of shading up there, because we're going to have a highlight here and a reflective highlight up there. So let's just put a little bit of shading right here. And I'm going to bring it into the ornament a little bit, because I should have some pine going over it right there. Okay, so those are shaded areas. I did them twice, but I may go back and do just down here a third time. Make it just slightly darker. To get it cool. Just right in through here. Make it a little darker. Okay, so that's our shading. That looks pretty good. And now we want to put a black shading on our topper like we did this one over here. So when you're painting that one, you can go ahead and do the same for this one up here. You don't have to do them separate as you go. Just, you know, you got the black paint on your brush, just go ahead and put it on there. With a little bit of shadow on that side. I might darken it just a scooch on this one. Just a little bit. Don't want it so dark that it, you know, it fades away into the background. Okay, so that is our shadowing on that. So let's get ready for our highlight here. Okay, again, our highlighting is with white. And we're going to keep the highlight right down here, and then we're going to do a bullseye float somewhere in this area. So I have to turn this so it's easier for me to pull my paintbrush to me than to take it away, than to push it. I have a little bit more control when I pull it. Then a bullseye float. We're going to do it. Clean up that edge a little bit. We're going to do a bullseye float right about here. Get a little bit of water on my brush so I can keep that soft on the edges. We don't want it to be hard lines. We want it to kind of fade out and disperse a little bit. I'll go ahead and highlight our topper up here. That feels dry, so I'm going to brighten that. Brighten that little bullseye area. need our little reflective highlight. So I'm going to go back to my little detail brush here and put it up here. Okay, that was a lot of paint. Doesn't need to be quite that thick. Just a little highlight right there. Okay, and that finishes out the red ornament. The ornaments are really pretty easy. The toppers are easy, so you don't have to really overwork them in any way. When we come back and put our bright little shine on there, that's going to really look cute. So we're ready to work on our limbs now. Okay, let's start on our pine, our tree pine up here. And this is going to be done a little bit different way than I normally do pine. Normally I like paint my stem in and then I start dabbing and coming back this way. I'm not doing that this time. This is going to be a very loose, very, I hope, quick for you, that you don't have to think too much about it technique. So, and I'm just using a round brush. Now, if using a round brush becomes too difficult for you, then you can certainly go to like a filbert brush or something. Clean my brush out here. Felt like it had something in it. Okay, so I'm going to start off by mixing Hauser dark green and black together. This is going to get a very dark green here. And as you can see, I'm just very loosely dabbing this on. I think I have a little too much moisture in my brush, so let me get that out. So I'm just creating, I'm going to try and mimic my original one, but I don't think it's going to come out. So this is very messy, very loose, and as we layer on this, it's going to, you know, come together. So don't think too much about the first steps that we're doing here. I just added a little bit more black in there because this was not quite dark enough for me. I want like a black green color. And if you're having a hard time seeing it on your black background, then you can certainly put some more green in there so that you can see it where you're going with stuff. I don't know how well you can see mine in the dark areas. When we get more layers on here, you'll certainly see it. Now back in here, we can just, you know, dab, 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 be messy, messy, messy. This is not a neat way of putting pine in. You know, pine is just one, it's just one of the accent things on here. So we're just going to fill in, and this first layer is our under layer. So it is not going to be pretty. It's not a super great color, but it is a good undercolor. So just continue. I just brush mix as I need my paint. Now I want this one to kind of come over the ornament here, so I'm going to bring it a little over the ornament. And we're just going to continue all the way back. We need this underpainting in order to make our pine look really good. Okay, so just continue all the way back. I do like to try and start at the tip, but you know, I don't always know where my tip is coming from, but I know this one is coming down to about here. So I can go out here and start on this one. And start just dabbing very loosely. If you're one of those who are a little more controlled and don't like the loose type of stuff, then you paint your pine any old way that you like. But we do want a good amount of coverage under here for our bottom layer. Okay, so this one's going to go through something in my paint there. It's going to come over this ornament here a little bit. It's going to go through the wire. It's going to come out the other side, but we're still going to see some of this pine coming out and about. Add a little bit more green in there. See if it can show up a little bit on this black. Probably not, but once it dries, you can kind of see the green on here. So, see if I can get. No, even with that light, I can't see it very well, but it's on there. I can subtly see that greenish black color. Okay, so in through here, we're just gonna kind of fill in through here. Let's go down and do this one. So it's got one that comes over this direction. Kind of drew that line wrong. Kind of curves around this ornament. Okay, that's a lot of paint there. Let me wipe some of that off. I'm going to go around and meet this big one that we just did. Okay, we got to have one going through this part, so we got to put a piece of one coming through here. Where it's hooked into that wire there. I'm not going to see a lot of that wire right there. And we'll see a little bit more of this one, but not a lot. Okay, and then we have one that comes over this part of the ornament. So I'm going to have to move my reflective highlight up a little bit so we can see it. And this is going to come down a little bit more here. I want you to really think about filling in, you know, not leaving huge gaping gaps. So we got, this one kind of comes around. Comes into this one. And then there's another one that comes off this way. So this will be a little thick right through here. Okay, now we've got a piece of one that comes off over this direction. And just kind of comes up beside this ornament here. And then we have this one. And it comes down here close to the ornament, this ornament. Oops, just laid my hand in that one. Should have painted that one last. This is just a simple little dabby, dabby, dabby. And then we've got one here, and it comes over the ornament. Okay. Alright, so we got a nice little start to our greenery. So what I want to do now is I want to take the paint that's in my brush. I wiped off the excess. No, yes. Okay, so I want you to rinse your brush here. Because now we're going to take some, that was Hauser dark green and black. We're going to take the Hauser dark green and bright yellow, and mix them together. Let's see, I don't really have a ratio for this. It's just mixing a little bit lighter than the Hauser Dark Green. And then we're going to come in with our second layer on here, and you'll start seeing this a little bit more. Now remember, when you do this, you're not covering up all that you previously did. But I think you can start seeing that a little bit better. Again, it's just dab, 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 dab. Kind of dab and pull if you want to do a little pulling stroke. You can do that. Some more Hauser Dark Green out. I just brush mix as I go. I'm okay if my colors are not, you know, exact. You know, nothing in nature is exact, so. I do want to try and keep that off of my ornament right there. Alright, we're going through that right there. We got one that's here. See how messy I'm being. Very messy dabbing here. I mean, you still want to try and follow a shape here and not just make them willy-nilly, you know, like you're following a line, which we did to start with. And if you have trouble following, you know, after that initial dark color dries, you could draw your lines back in on top. Okay, don't keep things tight and too clustery. We want to branch out and spread them out. The only place it can be like really grouped is along the edge. Wipe my brush off. It's getting a little overloaded. My Hauser is very chunky. Stuff in it. Let's see if I can get some out that's not full of chunks. Where am I? Oh, it's looking good. You got this one that comes around here. These two kind of overlap each other a little bit. And then come into this one here. which could use a little bit of that black underneath it. Wipe that off. Okay, can you kind of see that second layer on there? Looks pretty good. Okay, each layer we will use less and less because we're not wanting to cover up each color that we're putting on here. Alright, so for the next one, unless your brush is horribly overloaded, you just want to wipe the paint out. If it's really overloaded, you can rinse it, but you've got to load it first with that mix we just did, wipe out the excess so that we can go to the next color. I turned my light down a little bit so you could see that green a little bit better. So I wiped the excess paint out of my brush, and now I'm going to load into my mistletoe color. Now you can use whatever colors that you want to use. And we're going to add some of this color in. See how bright this one is. It's a great color. And this is mistletoe. We dirty brush into our next color so that we can have that cohesive look. Now we can take it all the way to the corner. We're going to wash over the corner edge with some probably black towards the end. Now with these lighter colors you can try and form your branches a little bit more. And we're just going to continue on. This is the same for all of our paints. This should really go pretty quickly because, you know, you're doing less and less. Just a little quick pulling stroke. Not covering up everything. Go in through there. Just keep going. Work your way all the way back. That's looking so good. Now, if any time you feel like you cover up a previous color, you can go back one step and fix it. start at the tip. These are starting at the tip, not at the back, so that gives us longer strokes as we get towards the back. Okay, that's looking really good. So now I just want to wipe off the brush, get that excess paint out, and I'm going to go into some margarita. Is that what I'm using, margarita? Yep. Margarita. And this one will go pretty quick because we're not using a ton of this color. This is like the bright highlight color. So we'll use even less of this one. And it's mixing a little bit with that green that I've got on my brush. Looking super cute. Fresh paint always works best for this. I put all my paints out at the same time, so might be a little bit too much in there. I'm going to have to go back one step for that and fill that in. Okay, so this area right here, right there, I'm going to move back one step. So that one step back was the mistletoe, but it had a little bit of that other green kind of on the brush. And I'm going to kind of break that up a little bit. Kind of got a little bit too much. Okay, now the last thing I'm going to do here is add some sapphire blue in. Yep. And we're just going to put a few of these in. This is just a little accent color. Bring some of the blue that we used in our background stuff back here into this. Not too much, just a little bit. Mix a little margarita in with it to help it be more cohesive. I think I put in there, yes, just to wipe the brush, and I washed my brush, so it should have a little bit of that green in with that blue, so it's not totally sapphire blue. So I'm not sure I can make those a little bit lighter or not. You just want to see that hint of blue in here. It's a little kiss of it. And I cannot paint the exact same way 2 days in a row, or my first one was painted months ago, so they are not even going to remotely look the same. But I really love how the pine turns out doing it this way. Alright, so let's put a little shading of black around the edge here to kind of clean it up. So I'm just going to use my angle brush. I think I'll mix a little bit of that Hauser dark green in with my black. Just make a really dark green. And I might have to use more black than that. And we're just going to kind of wash this over and kind of set this so it's got a, you know, like it's coming from somewhere, you know? I'm going to put a little bit in through here, kind of give that a little bit of a shadow, you know, if you want to separate any of these by putting a little black in there and, you know, casting a little shadow, you can do that. But that finishes up the pine right there. So now we're ready to move down here to these holly leaves and get them painted in. Okay, I'm just going to leave this flat on my easel because when I tilt it up it's too far away for you guys. So we're going to paint our holly leaves in with with mistletoe. I don't have holly. Mistletoe. So I like to outline them and just fill them in. It'll take a couple of coats. You can put your holly up higher than what I did. I kind of got a little close to the bottom edge, and having it up a little bit higher would probably be better because we're going to fill in around it with some pine needles. So I just outline first and then fill in. And we'll do 2 coats. So I will just go off camera and finish that because that is so repetitive. Alright, we're going to shade on these leaves with some Hauser dark green. Dampen my brush yet because that paint was not going onto my brush. Alright, so we're side loading an angle brush. I've got a 3/8 inch angle brush. You can certainly go to a smaller one. And I'm just going to do at the bottoms, which is called the base, you know, where it would connect to the plant itself. So all of these are going to get, oh, I don't even have you on camera. All these are going to get, except for this one, I might go along this bottom edge. But mostly just at the very bottom of them. Hauser dark green. Okay, this one has one going around it. And then we'll put some on this one down here. Not worried about being too incredibly neat. We got pine to put on here that's going to cover a lot of the bases of these. And I added a leaf right here. I felt like it needed one here. So this is just at the bases. Hauser dark green. Okay. Very kind of messy job. I'm going to quickly dry that so we can repeat it Shouldn't take too long to dry because I didn't use tons of paint here, but I just want to smooth it out a little bit with this second layer. So I got a little bit of water mixed in with my paint for this layer, which is going to help keep that paint a light color, so it's just kind of filling in and smoothing out what we just did, so it's not so choppy looking. Okay. We're going to use mistletoe to highlight some mistletoe on our brush. I think it's just straight mistletoe here. On my instructions I say I highlight with a wet blend. I put mistletoe on and then I put margarita on. I wipe the brush and I blend them together. So I probably didn't use an angle brush. So let me see how this looks. Put this on. I'm going to wipe the brush, get some margarita and put that on. Wipe the brush, and then I'm just going to blend them kind of where they meet. That's the mistletoe, which is what we basted in. And then I'm going to get the, okay, that's a lot. The margarita, wipe it off, and wet blend. Okay, mistletoe, wipe off, margarita, put it on there, wipe off, and then we're just going to blend them. If you want, you can just, mix it on your brush. I don't think it quite gives the same effect, but, I love doing a wet blend. I think it is a lot of fun. I think it creates a whole nother look for the painting. Wipe off, grab the margarita, put some on there, wipe my brush off, wet blend. Each one's going to look different. Okay? Okay, went way out of lines with that one. Kind of reshape that guy. Some margarita. Probably a smaller brush would be better. I'm sure on my first one I probably used a round brush, because it seems like I used a round brush for a lot of the greenery. Wipe off, margarita, wipe off, and we're just going to lightly blend that out. Okay, mistletoe. I'm going to wipe that off. Put some margarita on there, wipe it off, and blend it out. Super incredibly easy to do, lots of fun. Wipe off. I want to see a little bit of each color, so that's why I say if you just want to mix it and just do a highlight instead of trying to wet blend. But it's always fun to learn something new. A little bit more margarita here. Or not margarita, mistletoe. My brush has a wild hair there. This one up here needs a little bit more margarita, I think. I'm just going to go back over and add a little margarita here and there, so you can just highlight with just straight margarita. That would just be fine. However you want to do it. Okay, because I do put in my instructions, you can just do a traditional floating of margarita instead of doing the wet dry. Alright, so I want to do some red on some of the leaves. It looks like I did a mix of alizarin crimson and tomato red, and then just did a wash of the mix. So I'm just going to equally mix the two. Grab some water and make a little wash here. And then I'm just going to put this on a few leaves. You know, just pick a place here and there. Put some red. I'm going to copy what I did, and it looks like I did almost all the leaves. So you can see I'm just kind of dabbing it on there. Just a few little spots. It looks like I might have done some on this one. That one I don't think is on the line drawing, so add it or not. I think I missed it on the line drawing. Alright, now we want to put a center vein in with, I'm going to get my long liner because I prefer it. I'll be using it for the pine anyway. The center vein is Hauser Dark Green. Okay. Now, here is if you have one laying over one. Oh no, we need to bring the shading up on the candle. Okay, and so that was the alizarin crimson and lamp black mixed together. Okay, that's a lot of black. Let's take some of that out. Okay, and we can kind of go around this stuff. Okay. And I'm going to kind of put some around where my pine will be. That way when I paint my pine, I don't have to come back and try and go around it without getting it on the pine. Okay, so that's a good way to go ahead and get your shadow on there for that stuff. We're going to start adding the pine on here, pine needles. So we're going to start with Hauser Dark Green. And we're going to paint our little vein in first, and then paint some stuff coming off of our veins here, or our lines. I'm going to add a tiny little bit of black into that. See if I can bring it a little bit darker on here. Okay, so with this I'm going to start at the stem and take some out. Get my paint a flowing consistency. It's not wanting to flow very well for me. Okay, I've got one up here. This way. can just make them go in whatever directions that you want. This is like the underpainting of the pine, so... Oh, I not even got you on camera. Goodness sakes. Sorry about that. Brush. Can't get the paint to come out of this one. This is just a mix of green and black, making our first layer of pine in here. Okay, that was the first layer, and it looks horrible. Believe me, it looks horrible. I'm going to grab a different brush. Our next layer will be mistletoe and margarita. 2 to 1. I think the brush I have now is probably going to be too fat, so let me get a different brush. I'm having such a hard time with this one. I'm just going to try my round brush that I used up there. Alright, mistletoe and margarita. I still want to keep some thin lines on here if we can. I might have to come back in here with some darker ones again because I'm not really seeing my dark ones now. Okay, I think I'll come back in with my dark ones because I can't really see them. Just put a few in here. Okay, what's my next layer? Just margarita. Which my margarita still has a little bit of that other green in it. We'll just go with it. You'd probably like to be on camera, wouldn't you? Yippers. Just doing a few margarita ones. This is the worst looking pine needles I've ever done. I just got it way too close to the bottom and can't get the shape on them that I would like to have. We'll clean it up with putting the center vein back in so we can kind of see where they're at. Okay, let's do the center vein back in here. I'm mixing some black and Hauser green to get this where I can see it. Okay, I'm just going back to my round brush. I just cannot get that brush to flow today, and it is so frustrating. Center vein, center vein. Okay, something like that. I tell you what, my original one looks 1,000 times better than this one. I'm going to come in with some mistletoe in here. I don't think I did in my first one because the holly leaves are mistletoe, but man, I really need some more values of green in here. Well, that made it look a little better. Still not as good as my original one looks. I'm going to shade along the bottom of this one. I did not shade along my other one, so I got to put a few strokes of sapphire in here. Just to bring that blue into a few more places. And then we'll put our little white dots on down here, and we'll have the lower part done. I really don't want these to look like grasses, and I think this one looks more like grasses. But okay, there's a few strokes of blue in there. How pretty is that? I love that. That's so pretty. Bottom, what do I do with my Jingle brush here? I'm going to go with a little bit of black, I think. Just a wash. I want to hide the red part of that candle down there. Oh, figures. Sorry about that. Not sure what that line is down there. Paint over it. I think it was one I was transferring on my stuff. Okay, let's put some dots down here. Okay, so fresh paint obviously is going to work best for this. I just used the end of my paintbrush, and okay, that's really wet. Let me dry that. I just made, clusters of dots. Fresh paint, always best. All different sizes. We're varying the sizes here. Okay, that's probably good enough. Just add those little dots wherever you want. Now I want to make sure that you do not get your hand in them. We're going to do our last thing on here. Okay, our last thing is to make these sparkle areas. Okay, so I'm going to take my, well, I really need to take that detail liner, and I am going to get some fresh paint. You want clean water to thin this paint down with, so I'm going to spritz my palette so I have some clean water. Hopefully that'll be enough because my water basin is dirty. And we're going to thin this down. Okay, so I've got a little sparkle like right here. So I think I'll go through and put my dots where I want my sparkles to be. So I'm going to put one here, up here, somewhere over here. They can be wherever you want them to be. Okay, just stick my arm in those. I want to stay out of those. Put one there. One here. Some of them will be big, some of them will be little. I'm going to have one here. A little one over here. And up here. Looks like I have one on this side as well. Alright. So I need my paint really nice and flow consistency so I can get some thin lines off of this. Okay, that one's not flowing for me. Okay, this will be a little bit smaller. Okay, I like for the ones coming off of the top and the bottom. Okay. Try that again. I like for the ones coming off the top and the bottom and the sides to be longer. This one's going to be a small one. Boy, I'm not doing that one very good at all. Goodness gracious, eggs alive. That's just terrible, that line. on that line. I'll come back and paint that one. Fix this one back. I'm not sure I did much good. I feel like I have way too many in there, but I'm not changing it. A couple little ones over here. This one doesn't look all that little. I'll try to keep this one little. Okay, some of those got a little big, but not too bad. So I'm going to go back and dot the center in case it's not bright. Most of these stayed pretty bright, I think. And that's it. That is the end of this project. I think it turned out spectacular, you guys. I hope that you have enjoyed painting this one. I loved designing it so much, and I hope that you enjoyed it. If you're watching on my YouTube channel, please be sure and subscribe. Give me a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it. Please comment, and please share my videos. I appreciate you all. I will see you on the next one, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.